Hey guys, welcome back to Off the Water. I'm glad to be back after we took last week off. After Paddlepalooza, I think we all needed a little bit of a break. A lot of sun, a lot of fishing, a lot of drama out there. But I think everybody fished the tournament, had a great time. We did get a few nice hours of fishing in. Had some really nice slams brought in. It was a great tournament overall. We're going to be covering more of that later. As you all know, I'm Darth Yacker, your host. Joining me tonight, as always, my sidekick, Tyler, over there drinking down. Tyler, I don't know if you heard the news, but just announced the Pelicans won the draft lottery, have the number one pick in the draft. I don't know if we got a lot of basketball fans out there. Certainly I watch them when I can, being right here in New Orleans. Looks like they're going to have the right to take Zion Williamson in the draft. That's huge for the franchise. I mean, they're probably losing Anthony Davis, and they're picking up the consensus number one player. I don't know if we've had anybody rated this high coming up the draft maybe since Anthony Davis. So certainly good news.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Not much of a basketball fan, are you, Tyler?
I mean, I enjoy going to the Pelican games from time to time, but I don't follow it that much. Sorry.
Yeah. Well, look, guys, we have two guests joining us tonight, big winners from Paddlepalooza 2019, Mark Eubanks and Brock Miller. Hey, guys, how y'all doing tonight?
Pretty good.
Doing good.
That's fantastic. Hopefully, we're going to get them to share some of their tactics they used from Paddlepalooza, what helped them finish in the money, and maybe help you guys going out there in the next couple of weeks fishing Grand Isle, Leeville area, and some other areas. And what maybe you can learn from these guys, help put you on some fish here in the next couple of weeks. Also, we got another special guest tonight, Paul Bernard, formerly with the United States Coast Guard, dropping in. Paul's going to give us some information on an upcoming event they have planned for National Safe Boating Week. If you don't know, Paul's been a contributing member on our Facebook group for some time. He's a wealth of knowledge when it comes to water safety in our state. We thought this was especially appropriate considering the weather phenomenon. We'll call it a phenomenon because it's not wasn't something we normally experience at Paddlepalooza. We've had snow, we've had thunderstorms, we've had lightning. I think this may be the first time we've ever been hit by waterspouts. So certainly Paul's going to come on. He's going to talk to us about some things and some events coming up that may help make your boating trip safer when you're out on the water. So let's actually go over to Paul right now. I know he's got some things to do, so we'll switch over to Paul and get that started. Paul, tell us a little bit about yourself.
All right. Hello, everybody. Bayou Coast Kayak Fishing Club friends. How are y'all doing? Most of you know that I've spent my 20 years in the Coast Guard on active duty, running the rescue boats and doing the law enforcement. I retired from that, then went to work as a civilian Coast Guard search and rescue coordinator at our sector office in New Orleans. I did that for 7 years, and then in November, I landed this, my dream job. I'm the recreational boating safety program manager for the 8th Coast Guard District based out of New Orleans. So as you all probably know, National Safe Boating Week is the week leading up to Memorial Day. Coast Guard, as a matter of routine, tries to do a little extra and educational outreach to the boating public. So what we've done is at Station New Orleans, we've set up an open house and festival of sorts. We're going to try to entwine safety with a little bit of fun. Pretty tough calling, because I know when everybody hears the word safety, fun isn't the first thing that comes racing to their mind. But I think we've managed to do it. And rather than this being something like a classroom setting where the information generally flows one way, or an online session, it's going to be interactive. The public's going to come in. They're going to go to a lot of different stations, put their hand on a lot of different safety gear, and talk to the safety experts and the search and rescue and law enforcement experts about this gear. Now, as it relates to kayaks, the Bayou Coast Kayak Fishing Club is going to be out there. Todd Lewis stepped up. He's going to set up a static display, but he's also going to get out on the water in front of whatever kind of crowd we can draw. And hopefully Mother Nature will cooperate and we can get a good crowd. But he's going to do some capsize, right, and re-entry demonstrations. I guess I should backtrack a little bit. You might wonder why a guy in the Coast Guard is so concerned about paddle sports safety. If you were to go back 10 years and take a 3-year average, paddle sports fatalities would comprise 11 to 12% of all of the fatalities nationwide. Today, they're up to 22. Last year, they were 23%. So with motorboats being as expensive as they are, and people just wanting to get out on the water, they're turning to paddle sports, human powered craft, and with the proliferation of those craft, there's also been a rise in the accidents and fatalities involving the paddle sports community. So that's kind of what brings me here. In addition to my buds with the Bayou Coast Kayak Fishing Club bringing me in, that's what it's all about for me. And on a large scale, the 8th Coast Guard District is a big one. It's all the parts of 26 different states. So it's
Paul,
not just here in the local area trying to do it.
Yeah, and I hate to interrupt you, but I want to go back real quick on something you mentioned. What percentage of boating out there is boats versus paddle, kayak type things? Did you mention that? Was it?
The numbers aren't really good on that. We have, if you're in a motorboat, we have a registration database that we can look at to get those numbers. Well, with paddle sports, really all we have is the number of kayaks manufactured and sold. How many of those remain in circulation? How many of them are collecting dust in a garage somewhere? We don't really have good numbers on those.
But you said 25% of. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I want to say the last time I saw numbers on it, the estimates were right there about equal to motorboats.
Really?
There's about 12 million motorboat registrations nationally, and we're estimating there's about that many paddle craft, to include stand-up paddle boards, all the human-powered craft nationally.
And one of the statistics I was really interested in, you said that 25% of the fatalities now are from paddlecraft?
23.
23%.
If you took the past 3 years average, 22 to 23%. Now, I'm interested. Our 2018 statistics are due to release any day now. And based on my readings, I'm going to guess that number's it will have crawled up this year, unfortunately, I'm afraid.
And is this mostly due to drownings?
Yes, it is. Now, I've got a map in my office that kind of pinpoints the locations of all the paddlecraft fatalities. And for example, Colorado has a pretty high number of them. And I vacation in Colorado every summer, and looking at that map, I understand some of those waterways. There's places where they're 25 and 50-foot waterfalls that these swiftwater kayakers are going down with their helmets. So some of it has to be trauma related, but yeah, the majority of them are drowning. If we took our tournament from this last weekend and we didn't have club rules that forced kayakers to wear life jackets, there could have very easily been a fatality that had come out of that. And talking to and messaging back and forth with some of the people that were caught up in some of that, there was a very strong testimony for wearing that life jacket on the kayak. And really, as comfortable as life jackets are in this day and age, there's no reason not to do them. I don't know how well props show up on our podcast here, but this is my PFD. It's a simple manual pull belt PFD, and I'll literally forget it's there. It's not heat retaining. It's not burdensome or cumbersome. And it works really well for the coastal paddle sports activities that I participate in. So there's literally a PFD out there for everybody that's going to be comfortable for them.
In today's day and age, we have motorcycles you require to wear helmets, and cars you require to wear seat belts. And I just wondered, have you ever heard of any topics brought up on possibly requiring PFDs to be worn on paddlecraft, given those statistics?
Yeah, it gets brought up pretty frequently. I sit in on National Boating Law Administrators conferences. I've done 3 since I started this job in November. The topic always comes up, but what we generally find is the state legislatures are not quite warm enough to the idea of mandatory wear on paddlecraft. So for now, it's going to be education ahead of regulation.
Paul, I want to go back to the statistic we were talking about. You said 25% or 23% of all fatalities on the water are pedal or paddlecraft. And a lot of those certainly are drownings. Do you know what percentage of those drownings, if were people that actually had a life jacket on, or what percentage were people that didn't have a life jacket on?
I have not parsed the data down that far. If we can, we know our data is not good just because of the way that it's collected and input. We're about to revamp our entire data system to where it's going to be able to give us data like that. But with all vessels collectively only 15% of the fatalities involve people that are wearing PFDs.
Wow. So it's like wearing a
15%
seatbelt
of
in a
the
car.
drowning fatalities, that is.
Yeah.
So,
If you,
and when you look at those drowning fatalities, like the ones I was looking at this winter, they're typically cold water. When somebody's drowning with a PFD on, it's cold water or swift water that's causing the drowning.
we see a lot of articles. I know Chris Holmes does a really good job posting on the website whenever there's a drowning, and it's usually almost always someone not wearing a PFD, and that's in the southern part of the state, certainly Louisiana, Texas, Mississippi. People get caught up in water, or you get knocked out of your kayak for some reason. You're in deeper water, you start panicking. Could be various reasons for that, but thinking about it, your chances are so much greater for surviving if you get knocked out of a kayak with a PFD on than certainly without one.
Yeah, that's right. Absolutely. And when you start factoring in cold water and the possibility of cold water shock, I don't think until you've been in water that's cold enough to induce cold water shock, just how much it saps the life and energy out of you so quickly. You literally can't react. Your muscles don't want to work. So that first minute or so after you're immersed in that cold water without a PFD can be fatal. And then after a minute or so, your body will get used to it up to a point where hypothermia begins to set in and you start losing body function again. So the life jacket's just absolutely critical in those circumstances. And then here in this area, we have to think about, what happens. One of our kayakers over Paddlepalooza was separated from his kayak. Now, had he not been near somebody that could help him, he might have needed to be rescued. So a lot of the things that I like to encourage kayakers to keep on their kayak, and it can be something simple or something elaborate. For me, it's one of those small waterproof boxes, the orange boxes you see so many of. And I've got all kinds of goodies in there, from my cell phone to flares to a VHF radio to, I brought a couple more props with me. I love these little silver survival blankets. If you talk to our pilots and our searchers, they would much rather be searching for this reflectivity than a human in the water. It will stand out. And then if you make it to the bank, this is obviously going to stand out a lot better than a person would too. It also provides some protection from the elements if it's cold and rainy, and will retain some heat. So
where can you get those at, Paul?
What's that?
Where can you get those at? Those little silver blankets? I've seen them.
Any sporting goods store, any place that has the little sporting goods rack will probably have some of these. And like I said, they're only $3, and I think they're fantastic. Another thing, while I've got my paddlers on the hook, so many of us don't have VHF radios. We rely on that cell phone. Protect it. Protect that cell phone. This is something I'm going to really start pushing. These cell phone waterproof pouches that have some built-in flotation. They've got the little strap to keep it around your neck if that's what you want. But man, I can't tell you the number of kayak accidents that I read about where there was no way for that person to communicate. They had their phone on them in their pocket. It was not waterproof. And as soon as they got immersed, it quit working. So think about protecting that cell phone if you're going to rely on it. Let me drop this number in there. If you're interested, to all the listeners, grab a pen. I want you to jot this number down. It's the Coast Guard Command Center, Sector Command Center in New Orleans. And if you're in coastal Louisiana and you need some kind of assistance, this is the number that you're going to want. So put it on speed dial on the phone. And I'll go ahead and give it out now. And if you want to run by it again later at some point in the podcast, you can. But that number is 504-365-2209, and that's the Coast Guard's 24-hour command center at our sector office in New Orleans. 504-365-2209. So when you come out to our open house this weekend, and we hope to get some paddlers, we're going to have the Bayou Coast Kayak Fishing Club there with some demos and some static displays as well, and we're going to have something for the stand-up paddleboard community there as well. So,
and that's going to be this weekend, Paul? That's this weekend?
Sorry, say that again?
That event is this weekend?
May the 18th.
Okay,
yeah,
and where's it at?
18th from 10 to 2 at the Coast Guard Station in Bucktown.
Oh,
right
yeah,
across
yeah.
from right across the levee from R&O Seafood at 201 Hammond Highway. And that's That's on our Facebook. Let me tell you about our Facebook group.
Yeah.
We do have a Facebook group. It's got kind of a long name, like so many government things do. It's U.S. Coast Guard Heartland, HEARTLAND, one word, safe boating. So we created this boating safety Facebook group because we know there's so many people out there that are hungry for information from an official source. You see it just about every time I go on the club Facebook group. There's questions about regulations and requirements and stuff. So we've created this to give people a place to come and get answers from career Coast Guard professionals. And we also have people from the various states that are in the district that have signed on and are responding when the questions are state related as opposed to federal related. So pretty neat group and a pretty good resource. I'd like to see more people take advantage of it. We're just over a month old and running up on 600 members. So get the word out there. And in addition to answering questions, we post safety related articles. Like I dropped a picture of my ditch box in the Bayou Coast Kayak Fishing Club's Facebook group right after the tournament, and some people were interested in that. So we put stuff like that out there all the time. Pretty good website for safety and law enforcement type questions for the Coast Guard.
Well, Paul, that all sounds great, and certainly, feel free to share information on the Facebook club page. I think that's we can even pin it. We'll get one of the officers to pin it up there for this upcoming weekend. I don't know if you guys have recruited Josh Thompson yet. But if you're looking for someone who's got experience falling out of kayaks and trying to get re-entered, Josh would be your guy. He's done it now, back-to-back tournaments. He's fallen out of his kayak, I think. So
he's got a collection of empty cartridges from his inflatable.
Yes, he does. His inflatable's gone off both times, so he knows he's got a good workable life jacket. So that would be somebody you keep in mind. Big shout out to Todd Lewis for going out there and leading the charge for the club. Hopefully we'll get some members out there, and get some good valuable information. You never know. I mean, you never know when something's going to come up. Listening to Paul, looking at the emails, going, the post and maybe going out there, it could save your life. So certainly wear your PFD and if you get a chance, go out there and join them this weekend. Sounds like it's going to be some fun. Hopefully the weather cooperate and, you'll educate a lot of people.
All right. Thanks for the opportunity to talk to the group tonight, guys. Y'all take care.
Yeah,
absolutely, Paul. We'd love to have you back on. If you got any more, meetings like this coming up, seminars or anything like that, feel free to reach out to me or Tyler. We'd love to have you back on.
Yeah, maybe later in the summer we can get you on and maybe do a full safety-oriented episode. It sounds like there's a lot we could learn from you.
Absolutely.
Sure. Let's do it, guys. I'm all up for it. Thank you.
All right. Thanks a lot, Paul.
All right.
All right, guys. Paddlepalooza. It was one for the record books. Everybody gives me a hard time about my tournaments and my dates. And we had snow, and we've had thunderstorms, and we had what was that thing we had? An Arctic blast last year, Tyler, at Trout Challenge down at Pack.
Yes.
One thing we never had for my tournaments, waterspouts. I don't recall many stories about people getting thrown at their kayak. So this one's fallen squarely on Eric Stacy. His tournament, he agreed to this date. And so, Eric, it's all on you. But look, overall, this was a great tournament for the club. We had 240 people registered for this tournament. It's an unofficial record. I think 36 flounder weighed in, and many more caught. I know one guy came up to the weigh station. He had, 5 flounder. I think he forgot he was supposed to go catch trout and redfish and just sat there and was so excited to catch flounder. He just kept picking them off. So no telling how many flounder were caught. I know the week or two leading up to it, the flounder were being caught. I had reported it out here, actually. I thought it was going to be a very good tournament. I thought we'd probably have 20 to 30 slams weighed in. I don't know the number of total slams we had, but certainly 36 flounder weighed in. Good tournament overall. I mean, basically 1 in 8 people caught a flounder. So that's a great one. Thursday night, if you get out there early, Thursday night, Eric Stacy, phenomenal meal. We had boiled shrimp, these monster king crab legs. I'm not kidding when I say they're almost the size of your arm. Maybe not Tyler's arm, maybe my arm, but they were huge. You basically would get one leg, pull the meat out, and that was all you could eat. That's what we ate. We had some boiled shrimp, very, very spicy potatoes and corn, from what I recall. I don't think Eric was fishing early Friday, if I want to remember. He was telling me about the potatoes incident. But anyway, so that was Friday night. I'm sorry, Thursday night. Friday night, pasta fantastic. Little Rascals cooked it up. Great meal. Good captain's meeting, I thought. We had some nice prizes given away at the raffle. Had some sponsors out there. Got through the rules. I think everybody got in early. So if you weren't fishing about Paddlepalooza, I'm sure you've heard about it. But we had some weather Saturday. I remember when we first started, we get out there, and I think a few of us had launched about 4 a.m, sitting there waiting for legal fishing time to start. So we're out there, and we're counting down. It's 4:58, 4:59, and right when I said 5 o'clock, lines in, it starts raining on us. And so I'm looking over. I think Eric Stacy's about 20, 30 yards from me, and you just hear him cursing. Here comes the rain gear. So we all got the rain gear on. So about the first 15, 20 minutes, we're getting dumped on. Realizing we weren't going to catch anything yet. So we all just kind of move around, and I'm basically sitting in my spot waiting for 5 o'clock to come up. And so 5 o'clock comes up, and I'm just going to tell my story right now. So 5 o'clock comes up, start doing some fishing. 6 o'clock, gets a little bit better. I run into Francis Tran about 6:30. He's pedaling by me. And he says, I said, "Hey, man, you got anything?" He says, "Yeah, I got 2. I said, "What, a trout or redfish?" "No, 2 flounder." I'm like, "It's 6:30, really?" So, I end up, I was fortunate. I ended up getting out there and getting a trout early. And I was actually starting to fish for some flounder. I picked up a 20-inch redfish, and then really started hitting some flounder. We were looking for it. They had a bunch of us fishing. A lot of us were fishing Grand Isle. And there's probably 8 or 9 of us back there. And we did good. I caught my flounder, caught my redfish, decided to head in and try to upgrade my redfish at that point. I got a bigger trout. There was some big trout blowing up along that artificial reef, some blowing up some bait. Me, I think it was Eric and Josh were all right around it. And all 3 of us threw into that area that was blowing up. And all 3 of us pulled out a really nice trout. So I think mine was 19 inches. And I said, it's about 8:30. I need to head in and try to upgrade this redfish because they really weren't back there like they were the previous week. So I decided to go head off into the marsh and got out there, I don't know, probably about 10 o'clock or so. I knew the weather wasn't supposed to hit us till about 11:30, keeping it on the radar. That low pressure system started coming in. You could feel it. And I don't know if you guys ever been fishing right before that system comes in, but a good hour to half an hour before that system, the fish really start biting. And I was throwing top water, and I had a huge blow up top water in the Grand Isle Marsh. And he was 26.5-inch redfish. And I'm thinking, I got a 19-inch trout. I got a 13-inch flounder, a 26.5-inch redfish. This should put me in the money. It's probably not enough for number one. Redfish wasn't that fat. He was kind of skinny, but I kept fishing. A little while later, I ran into Tyler. I ran into Josh. And I know, Tyler, you came out there, and you'll tell your story a little bit. But Tyler got his redfish. He picked up a nice big red. He had his flounder and his trout. And he picked up a red and upgraded his red. So he had a nice slam as well. So looking in, the radar showed that the storm was going to hit us. The bad weather was going to hit us I think it was about 11:40 or so. So we made the decision, even though the fishing was on. I mean, it was on. It's hard to leave fish biting, but we knew the weather was coming in. So we come in, and we're probably 10 minutes from the launch. We weren't that far from where we launched at off of Highway 1. And all of a sudden, we feel this cold air just hit us out of nowhere. The sky went completely black around us. I mean, this storm came up on us within 2 or 3 minutes. I can show you pictures from half an hour beforehand. It was overcast, but nothing like this. This storm came out of nowhere. Wasn't supposed to hit us for another 40 minutes. We weren't far from the launch. I mean, we were doing everything we were supposed to do. We were being careful. We were being safe. We were making sure we were going to be in before the thing, and it just pops out of nowhere. Next thing you know, me, Tyler had a buddy out there with him. Josh Thompson was out there with us. 2 of the guys, I forget their names, but we ran into them. We were all coming down the same canal together, and the wind just starts whipping. The rain starts whipping. The rain's hitting us from the front. The wind's hitting us from the back. It's coming from the side. Tyler sells. We can barely see in front of us. The rain's coming down so bad. Tyler yells to me, "Hey, they're out. They fell out. They fell out." I'm like, "Who?" He says, "Those guys in front of us." So we're pedaling over there. We're checking on them. Fortunately, they were in the marsh. They pushed off to the side. We check on them. They said, "Hey, we're okay. We're okay." So we're still heading in, but this rain is just kicking our butts. We lost Josh behind us. You couldn't see. There was no way to turn around at that point because we'd never made it back. And it was probably the most intense rain wind I've ever been in, absent a hurricane, in the kayak. And then we noticed the waterspout moving away from us. So what happened was it actually came and it hit us. We were in it. And then as soon as it moved, obviously the rain wasn't as bad because that waterspout moved on. I got a picture of it. Once it got a little bit further away, I said, "You know what? We just got hit by a waterspout. I don't want to forget this." So I got a picture. I think some people from the bank actually took a really good picture. I know we've got some video. I think was it Elizabeth Hart maybe?
Yeah, let me play that video real quick.
Yeah,
Elizabeth Hart. I'm thinking from where she took this picture is a good possibility, and this video it may be the same one that we went through, but.
Yeah. Why don't you show that video real quick, Tyler?
So it was definitely the most intense moment I've been in the kayak. I was real nervous, and like he said, we had lost Josh behind us, and the whole time we're pedaling, I kept thinking, "Man, I hope Josh is all right," and I knew that I couldn't turn around and go check on him. I knew the best thing for me to do was to get to land, and if he didn't come in, that I could call for help instead of putting myself in more danger. And sure enough, a little bit later, once we make it back to the bank, here comes Josh with his life jacket all inflated again. So out of the 6 guys there in the canal that were trying to outrun the storm, I think three of us ended up in the water. And but I mean, not long after that water spout passed, then here comes the lightning, man, and whew, that was some bad lightning. And I mean, it was lightning and then thunder. No breaks between. Usually you see the lightning, you wait a little while, you hear thunder. That stuff was popping all around us, and I think me and Sean were both saying some prayers and just pedaling as fast as we could.
We could. It was funny because when that water spout hit and Josh had actually flipped, he said, I think what he said was his kayak actually got lifted up by the spout and he flipped over. I know I was leaning as far to the right as I could. My hands almost dragging in the water because my kayak was being pushed so hard to the left. I'm thinking, man, I'm about to lose all this equipment, we were in 2-3 foot of water, so it wasn't as scary as far as if we fall out, we fall out. I was more worried about losing the equipment and losing my bag of fish, actually, because I had a good bag of fish in there. Really, as soon as the water spout hit us, it was through. It seemed like it lasted a while, but it went quick, and then we were forced with the wind, and then the lightning started coming in. But we made it in safely, obviously. Josh made it in. The other 2 guys made it in, and I know Tyler, your friend, made it in. And I think we got a good shot of the 3 of us, hugging and celebrating. Hey, we just made it through a water spout.
That was about the time we decided to load up and go get a burger at Bridgeside.
Yeah, and that was I think none of us decided to go fish again that day. I said that my heart was pounding. I went home, back to the camp. I took a shower. I took a nap. I woke up 2 hours later. Was at the weigh-in 4 hours later. My heart was still pounding the whole time. So it was certainly an experience. And we were fortunate. I mean, they had some other guys that got hit. There was another water spout that hit out there by Sand Dollar and the back of the island. I know one guy had his kayak. It lost. It sunk. And we're actually going to have a story about that on next episode. We're going to talk about that a little bit further. Another guy was rescued, I think, by the Coast Guard. So no one was injured. Thankfully, this thing popped up. Nothing anybody could have done really to predict it. No one was injured. Everybody got in safely. We had some lost equipment, but overall, it could have been worse. So we were all very happy that everybody got in safely and got that. So, but look, it was fun. It was interesting. Looking back now, it's kind of one of those experiences in life that you can say, hey, this happened to me that one time. or, hey, I was fishing at the championship and it snowed on us, go figure that. But so look, I know everybody's here to talk about some fishing, and let's talk about the good things about Paddlepalooza. Let's go to Mark Eubanks. Mark, how you doing tonight, man?
Doing good, man. Doing good.
So I know you won last year, and then this year you finished in second place. I mean, how's that feel?
Pretty good. Actually, whenever I went to the win, I didn't think I had a shot. Just hearing all the stories of everybody's fish, seeing some of the fish that came in, I didn't think I had a prayer. I knew I had a good red, but I had a small trout, a small flounder, and it wasn't until I was cooking and I heard y'all call me and Devin's name, and I was like, wait a minute, what? That's no way.
Well, look, before we get into your day, tell us a little bit about yourself. I know you're married. Your wife is Taryn, right?
Mm-hmm.
I know you're a huge Star Wars fan like myself.
Yep.
You have a relatively famous dad in the fishing community.
That I do.
Mr. Tommy, if you don't know him, great guy. I'm sure you've probably learned a lot from him over the years.
I think he's our biggest
Very
fan,
much.
Sean, too.
I think he is. He attends. I think every episode we always see a comment from him. So it's nice we have a little bit of a fan club there. Now tell us what you do for a living, because I see your Facebook post and you're always talking about hacking into a system or something like that. I'm thinking, I thought hackers kind of were like lived on the low key, kind of low down, and you're over there telling us about who you're hacking into and stuff like. What do you do?
So I'm an information security analyst, and I do hack for a living. We're contracted out. I work for a company called Trace Security, and we deal mostly with financial institutions, but they basically pay me to try to hack into the bank and see what information I can gather.
Okay.
See what I can get from anything that's on their network.
And I know you've been taking a bunch of tests. These are some pretty difficult tests that you're going through.
Yeah, the certification test I'm working on is a OSCP, Offensive Security Certified Professional. I actually take the test next Sunday. It's a 24-hour test, and I have to hack into 5 machines within that 24-hour period. And previously, in the last 30 days, I was doing the lab environment where there's like over 70 machines. So I was doing kind of an update as I went on how many machines I had broken into.
So how do you feel this year about going into that test? Pretty good?
Well, we'll see. It's not easy. The time crunch is the biggest problem.
I'm still trying to figure out how to move some stuff from my Microsoft Outlook, and I deleted stuff, and it's not freeing up space. So, good luck with that. I wouldn't even know where to begin with hacking into something. So look, tell us about Paddlepalooza this year. Did you get the chance to do any scouting before the tournament?
No, I usually my scouting comes from Dad. So
did your dad get to do any scouting this year before the tournament?
Yeah. And the thing is, it's is he telling me the truth? Is he playing with me? What's he doing? So he usually goes down Wednesday or Thursday, and he goes to a couple different locations. And usually I just ask for water quality, what it looks like here and there, and then I kind of make my decisions based on what I'm comfortable with and what's come up from what he's told me.
Yeah. So I know you didn't come in until the morning of the tournament, right?
Right.
So you didn't even get to pre-fish that Friday.
No, I usually don't get to pre-fish at all.
Okay. So where did, if you don't mind sharing, where did you end up fishing this year? We had 3 fish, obviously, to get the slam, your redfish, your trout, and your flounder. I saw your trout. I know where you weren't fishing, probably for that trout. You had a stud of a red, though, and really, I think that's what probably did it for you. Tell us a little bit, if you can, what your strategy was going into this year. Did you target one fish first and then figure I'd go with the other 2? Or for me, it was I'm going to target my trout first while it's early, then hit my flounder, and then maybe fish for my redfish later in the day because I had a pretty good idea that they were biting a little bit later in the morning. What about you? What was your strategy going in?
Well, my strategy typically is I look for my big red first because I know that if I can get a redfish that's slightly over 27, I can ice him down to make him hit that edge. And Todd Lewis knows more than anybody that I typically am cursed with that hitting the 27-inch line. But this year it just worked out for me. The area I go to, I found it back in 2012 when Minimalist Challenge was held in basins. And between talking to Dennis Anye and Rev Red, they kind of taught me. Oh, that was Bill Crawford. They kind of taught me that area because I used to fish with them a good bit. And this area that I found at the Minimalist Challenge that year in 2012, I came in second place with, just some massive reds there. And I found where they were stacked up. I found some deep holes. And I also found some spots that held some trout. So I've kind of found that area, and I've been able to go back there and reproduce those good fish, on several occasions now. So I went out there and I had my first redfish, which was 25 and a half, 26 inches, right at 515. And then about 545 is when I caught my big red, which was 27, and I think it was 27 and a quarter when I put him in the boat and put him on ice, and then started looking for trout. But then the storm hit me. So that's when it got kind of bad.
Yeah. How'd the weather go up in Basons? And for people that don't know, Basons, the northernmost point you could fish for this tournament. I think now it's called Gator Cove or Alligator Cove or something like that we were talking about. Did you get a lot of rain up there?
It started out, I'll tell you, when I was going out, I had a beautiful light show because there was just lightning on horizon everywhere, and it lit up everything. I almost didn't have to use my headlamp to see. It was so much. But it was off in the distance. So I was like, okay, I'm just going to stay close to the bank, not pick any of my rods up, nothing like that until the lightning passes. And I got out to my spot, and it just was barely drizzling until right around 6 o'clock. And then it started just dropping the bottom out of it. And I got to that point to where the wind started picking up, and I just beached my kayak and put my anchor down in my Hobie drive hole and just hunkered down because where I was beached, all the rain was coming directly in my face. So I just had to put my rain suit on and just cover up. And it had to be hitting 50-mile-an-hour wind gusts whenever I was there. I didn't see any waterspouts, but then again, it was hitting so hard I couldn't hardly see at all.
Yeah.
But it lasted about maybe 15 minutes, and then it was gone. And then it was just, pretty good breeze, but it didn't really rain much after that.
Now, and that's a good point. You caught that big redfish. So what, before 7 o'clock, you said, right?
5:45. 5:45.
And the weigh-in ended at 4 o'clock. Although people were certainly fishing. I know you were right there at the end of the weigh-in, making sure that fish shrunk. So you really had probably close to 9 hours to shrink that fish a quarter inch. Is that about right?
Yeah, and he came in at 26 and 3/4.
26. So you actually were able to shrink them about half an inch over that 9-hour period. So, that's a good tip. If you can get that big redfish early, you had the possibility of shrinking them down. Certainly if you'd have caught them at 3:30 and running them in, maybe not, especially with the way Todd pinches those tails. But, with the redfish that size, right over and having that period of time. So what about your trout and your flounder? Were you able to also catch those out in basins?
I caught a 12 and a half inch trout in basins. And I knew that wasn't going to be good enough. But I can typically at least pick up a trout that's keepable. Mm-hmm. And I actually went to go look for a flounder I left basins at 9 o'clock. And I went to a couple different flounder spots, and the one I finally went to that I caught my flounder at, I pulled up into second cast, caught a 12 and a half inch flounder. And then made a couple more casts and caught a trout because I was Carolina rigged with a live minnow and caught about a 13-inch trout. So I was able to upgrade my trout there and finish my slam. And then the second wave of the big storm hit, and took shelter, waited that out. And then got back on the water and fished for a little bit before finishing my day in Grand Isle trying to look for a flounder upgrade, which I never could find. But had I stayed there, I would have caught my flounder upgrade because Dad pulled in and he caught it.
Yeah. So what'd you catch your redfish on?
I caught him on a cork. I actually found at Academy there's a little, kind of like a little miniature glow stick that you can attach to the top of your cork. And I've been using that to fish early morning because you can see it really well. You can cast it out real far. You can see it just glowing on top of the water, so you can see when it drops below. And I had actually tossed it out, and it never even stopped. It hit the water and just went straight under.
Was that with a minnow or artificial?
Yeah, I was fishing a live minnow.
Okay.
And everything, was kind of the difference between this year and last year. Last year, everything I caught was on top water. This year, they wouldn't touch any artificial.
Even your flounder?
No, not my flounder. My flounder, I caught on them in a live minnow, but everything else, I mean, all morning last year it was top water. It didn't matter what it was. It was just hitting top water. This year, I couldn't get anything on artificial. I caught almost everything on live bait.
Yeah. So, your flounder, you didn't catch that in Bassons. You went further south for that then.
Yeah, I caught that in Leeville.
Leeville, yeah. So now I know some of the bigger trout this year seem to come from Leeville. Now last year, Paddlepalooza was in March, and it was a huge difference. Obviously, a lot of people fished south this year rather than going up north. Last year, a lot of people fished up north simply because a lot of the fish hadn't made it down towards, say, Grand Isle or something. What was the biggest difference you noticed between last year and this year for you, if you noticed any difference?
Water depth was the biggest thing for me. Last year when I pulled into basins, the Thursday and Friday before, when I talked to my dad, he said there was no water at all in basins. So I pulled in there, and I happened to see one of the bow fishing boats come pulling out. And I started talking to them for a few minutes, and they said that there was a little bit of water. I figured, if it's enough for them to run a boater, I should be able to get my kayak back in there. Went to my spots, couldn't even get in there. So I had to find some new spots, and I managed to find a spot that had some good reds in it and some trout as well. Wasn't very deep, but it was crystal clear.
That's good. Well, look, man, congratulations on another great finish. I know you won the compass. I think it was a compass this year with some accessories that was provided by the backpacker. So congratulations on that. I mean, you get another, nice plaque and everything, a little bit something more to add to your repertoire there. First place finish Paddlepalooza, second place the following year. That's a pretty good 2 years for Paddlepalooza. I mean, you're competing against 240 something people, and to come out second, in that high 2 years in a row, really testament to knowing some fishing and doing some really good fishing 2 years in a row. So we appreciate you coming on tonight. Feel free to stick around. We're going to move over to Brock. I know we've got a lot more stuff to cover tonight. So hopefully we'll have you on again, maybe even after Falling Tide, if you can fish it.
Oh, I'm making it. I'm coming back from Disney the Saturday or the Sunday before Falling Tide, but I'm making it.
Well, I'm going to make sure I talk to Mr. Tommy this year. Maybe he can give me some spots to fish for Falling Tide.
Good luck.
Thanks. So, hey, Tyler, let's go on over to Brock. Brock, how you doing tonight, man?
Pretty good. How are y'all?
Good. So, look, for those of us out there who are watching tonight and didn't see our episode last time we had Brock on, I'm going to summarize. Brock's an LSU student, and he's also one of Backpacker's finest representatives. He's a member of our club for a while, trying to get him on board as an officer. We talked about that again today. Hopefully we'll get him on.
We did talk about that today.
We did talk about that today. So don't be surprised if you see your name nominated next year, Brock. We'll eat you in there, maybe make you sponsor coordinator or something like that. So, Brock, let's talk about Paddlepalooza first. You finished in 5th place this year overall. Was this your highest finish?
It is, yeah. I was top 20 last year, but I snuck in there this year.
It snuck in there. Snaking in his 10th. You finished right there at 5th place. 2 spots behind me, I think. Is that right? I was in 3rd.
I'll get you one day.
But you know what? 1 spot ahead of Tyler, though. So did you get to do any pre-fishing?
I did. I fished Friday. Fished down in Grand Isle and caught a couple of good trout. I actually saw a flounder, so kind of based my plan off of seeing that flounder, thinking there's probably a pretty good concentration if I was actually able to put my eyes on one.
Yeah. So you saw a flounder. Was that Were you sight fishing flounder, or did you see someone else
was,
catch a flounder?
No, I didn't sight fish them, but I was just standing up paddling and happened to go over a clean spot and spooked them up and watched them swim away. So
Really?
I figured that'd be a pretty good place to return.
Absolutely. So tell us kind of your strategy going in. Mark was telling us he goes for the big redfish first. I went for my trout first. What was your thoughts kind of going in?
So I was kind of the opposite. Looking at the weather, I figured it'd kind of mess up Grand Isle later in the day with it being some pretty bad wind. So I hit Grand Isle first, just to kind of that way it would put me up north when the storm hit in a little more protected water. So I started there, went to my trout spot, got there around 5:30. Fishing a big open bay, and the waves were so bad that they'd come up for the top water, but they couldn't catch up to it. So I kept seeing them miss it. So I just go down and didn't catch anything on the first couple passes, and then on my third pass had a good hit, and then threw a jerk bait over there and pulled up my first trout, and then did that a couple more times. Then I actually hit a random spot for flounder just on my way back in, and third or fourth cast ended up pulling up a flounder. So right after that, made the move up north, and then that's kind of when the storm hit.
Yeah. So you caught your trout and your flounder down in Grand Isle?
Yeah, I had a trout and a flounder by I think 6:45 or 7 o'clock.
Nice. And at that point, you moved north to go. Did you stay in the Grand Isle area? Did you go up to like Golden Meadow or Basons or something?
Actually, I ran up to Golden Meadow. I found some clean water up there the past couple weekends, and went straight to the spot. Missed a good one on second cast, and then moved down the bank probably 20 yards, and ended up pulling a 25-incher up.
That's nice. What size was your trout?
I want to say it was around 16.
Yeah. One of the things I found in Grand Isle, I was thinking that there were going to be some bigger trout down there.
Mm-hmm.
I think mine was 19. I know we had, I think, another 17 or 18 right around there. But it seemed that the stories coming in, most of the people, we had some nice trout brought in. I mean, some 3.5 pound trout brought in. Seems like most of those were caught in Leeville.
Yeah.
Apparently. I was surprised that with the tournament being in May, we didn't have any bigger trout being caught more towards Grand Isle. But I know, again, you had some real big stud reds caught down in Basons. The bigger trout were in Grand Isle, were in Leeville. And then I think, we had probably 8 of us that were kind of fishing in an area together in Grand Isle, and all 8 of us caught a flounder. I think that's probably the first time I've ever seen that happen, where everybody caught flounder. And then it was, okay, can you catch a redfish now? The redfish weren't thick. They were out there pretty thick a couple of weeks ago behind the island. What did you notice? Anything? Maybe people wanting to go down and fish Leeville and Grand Isle in May and June, maybe before it starts getting kind of hot. You notice anything there that you could maybe tell some of the viewers that would help them if they want to go down there and try to get on some of these trout or redfish?
I'd say just kind of base your plan off the wind. I mean, if it's a light north wind and the surf is low, definitely try to get out there to Elmer's. You can catch some really big trout out there this time of year. I don't think anybody made it out there last weekend with the weather we were having, but I know Brendan talked about it at the last meeting that this time of year is a prime time for Elmer's Island, and you can catch them on top water, jerk baits, live baits, really, really whatever you want to throw at them. And then coming up pretty soon, should be some good bull red fishing down there if you want to do that. But just head into the marsh and you can easily pick up some redfish too.
Yeah, and one thing I found, and this was true for me Friday before Paddlepalooza and Saturday the tournament, was the redfish were killing top water for me both Friday and Saturday, late morning too. 10:30, 11 o'clock. Sun out on Friday, and they were just, matter of fact, I had to replace my top water for the tournament on Saturday. It was so beat up.
Yeah.
And I actually had talked to Captain Eric Mahobarak today, or no, it was yesterday, because I went out fishing Lake Hermitage today, asked him if they've been doing any good down Highway 23. He told me that he had a customer went out. They actually went out of forget, it was somewhere down Highway 23. It wasn't far down. It was Myrtle Grove or Lake Hermitage or something like that. And he tells me, he says, man, Sean, the redfish have been tearing up the top water lately. So kind of funny that we're seeing it down in Grand Isle and we're seeing it up here, north of that. So I'm not sure what it is right now. It's probably the bait in the water that they're doing, and the redfish are really tearing up top water. So if you're getting a chance to go out, don't be afraid to throw that top water even later in the morning, even if the sun's out. You may not catch any trout, but the redfish are out there and they're hitting it.
Yeah, I think a lot of what had to do with that last weekend was the pre-front.
Yeah.
Actually, when I pulled up to my redfish spot, I had a red come up and hit it, and then the next cast, it was actually 3 sheep's head coming after it. So that pre-front just had everything kind of fired up and eaten, especially on top.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's one of the things, man, when that front's coming through and those fish are biting, it's real hard to leave because you're thinking, man, maybe I can get a 26 and 7/8 or 11/12 or something like that inch red for that. So Brock, if you'll hang with us, I want to talk to you a little bit more. We got some other things to talk to you about with Fish Pics, your big win there. I want to switch over to Tyler real quick. Tyler, I'm looking through my outline real quick. I always make an outline, and I completely jumped over you when I went to Bark. I know this was a big tournament for you. Tell us about your day.
It was this was my first time catching a slam. Or let me step back. It was my first time weighing in a slam tournament. So I had a heartbreak in Mobile a couple of years ago and had a flounder that jumped back out my boat into the water. So there's a little redemption from that a couple years back. But anyway, I started out in Grand Isle bright and early. I don't have too much experience fishing in the pitch black, so I really just decided I was just going to throw top water. I knew I could hear it and feel it and walk the dog and hope that maybe when something bit it, I'd be able to hang on. And had a few blow ups before the sun came up. But it wasn't until after the sunrise, after that first little rainstorm, unlike Mark, I was able to. I caught both my red and my trout on top water. So I caught a 21-inch red, and a little bit later managed to pick up a 16-inch trout on top water and decided to switch to flounder. And not long after that, I hooked into one that came off. And then shortly after that, I hooked into another one, and I had my slam by 8:40 in the morning. And at that time, I knew a 16-inch trout was okay. My 21-inch red wasn't. So I decided to pick up and make a move to the marsh, try to beat the storm that we knew was coming in.
Let me ask you this real quick before we get in the marsh. How did you feel? I remember the first time I caught a slam in a tournament. And certainly you had your trout and your red and you got that flounder, in, and all of a sudden you realize I got the slam. I mean, how'd that feel for you?
I was pumped, and I'll tell you, after the experience I went through in Mobile, I had a death grip on that thing. It was not coming out this time, but it was heartbreaking to lose the one at the net. Thankfully, not long after I had another one in the boat, and it was a pretty exciting feeling for sure.
That's a good point. Vlad had a really nice red and trout, and he probably would have finished in the top 3, maybe in first or second. He lost his flounder. He said he had one flounder. He lost it at the kayak going to net it. And sometimes when you dip that rod down a little bit, just enough when you're trying to work that net around, it's just enough to let that hook come out. So, sometimes it's lucky, but so you got your slam now. It's early, and I know you were looking to upgrade at that point.
That's right, and I guess my strategy going into it was to really throw top water the first couple hours in the morning to try to get that trout, and then from there I had planned to just fish hard for flounder. I'd heard so many reports of flounder being caught that I knew that to get in the money it was probably going to take a 3-fish stringer this year. So thankfully, I happened to pick up a 21-inch red on topwater when I was fishing for trout, and then was able to switch to flounder and have my slam by 8:40. Picked up, moved to the marsh, got out there, and that's when I ran into Sean, and we were pretty much back to back, just taking turns catching fish on topwater there for a little bit. I mean, he caught his 26 and a half. I was able to upgrade my red to 25 and a half. I knew that was decent. I would have liked it a little better. We kept throwing topwater for a while. Picked up another 16-inch trout. And then we knew it was time to start heading in. We wanted to play it safe and started heading in, got caught up in the Waterspout. And after we picked up, I decided that, it was near lunchtime. I felt like after that storm had everything stirred up, the chances of me upgrading from a 16-inch trout or a 25.5-inch red were probably pretty slim. And we decided to pack it in and go get some lunch, take showers, and go set up for the weigh-in. And it ended up paying off with a 6th place finish. So I was pretty excited about that.
Yeah, and I tell you, I wasn't too far from you when you caught that red that upgraded, and I know you were fishing that bank and you were throwing that top water, and I remember turning around and seeing your rod bent over and you getting pulled towards the shoreline. I said, I've already got my fish at this point. I'm just kind of killing time, kind of messing around a little bit, and I went over there and I could see you bring it in and take a picture. I know you were pretty pumped at that point. You had I know he was over 25 inches, I think.
Yeah, just over 25. And I mean, at the time, it was a pretty good feeling to be sitting in that position at 11 in the morning, And I was thinking, man, we got a lot of time left in the day to keep fishing. Then after the experience we went through, I was just done.
Yeah, it was crazy. I mean, we got those fish in, and I know we were going down the canal and just taking turns. You on the left, me on the right, and throwing top water, and they were still hitting it. But it was a good. I mean, 6th place finish out of 240. It's a hell of a finish, man.
And
so I was glad,
Mark said, I was sitting up there by the weigh-in table the whole time, taking pictures and watching, and I kept seeing slams. And it's like every 4th or 5th person, slam. And I'm thinking, man, I should have went back out. What I have is not going to be good enough. And I was really pretty surprised when I found out that it was good enough for 6th.
Yeah. And it was a great finish. I know it was your first time finishing in the top 10 in the slam tournament at Paddlepalooza or Fall of Tide. 6th place is a great finish. Certainly Brock 5th place. And I think Steve was at 4th. But I'd be remiss. We've had Devin Belts on here before. Typically, what we like to do is we like to bring in new people to talk about experiences and what happened. We've had Devin on before. We're going to have him on again. Devin took 1st place. He had a great slam. He had a nice solid redfish. He had a nice flounder, I think, and more than anything though, and what got him, and that's what basically what got him over me and Mark, because I think Mark and I, we weren't that far off. I think my total weight was like 9.65 pounds. And Mark's weight, I think, was 9.9 something. I think, Mark, it's just that redfish was a stud. I mean, I had your trout beat by a good bit. I had a nice trout. It's like 2.3 pounds. But that red you had was just, a stud. Whereas Devin had, I think his trout was 3.3. He was a good pound heavier than mine. And he was in the 10s for his total weight. So he had a really nice slam. I don't think either of us were really that close to him. I know he was a full pound ahead of me, probably at least a half a pound ahead of Mark.
I have a list. I have a list I can put up on the screen and read through the weights real quick if you want to.
Yeah, why don't we do that? Let's go through the slams and let's announce the top 10.
Okay,
once you do that for us.
First place, Devin Belts, 10.68. Second place, Mark Eubanks, 9.96. Third place, Sean Rastanis, 9.65. Fourth place, Steve Lassard, 9.14 pounds. Fifth place, Brock Miller, 9.03 pounds. Sixth place, Tyler Caldwell, 8.54 pounds. Seventh place, Aaron LaRose, 7.64. Eighth place, Matt Carr, 7.54. Ninth place, Benton Parrott, 7.47. I know he had a big red that just barely went over 27, and he ended up in ninth place, which is still a great finish. But I have a feeling if that red would have came in under 27, he may have been sitting up there with above
probably
that.
top three at least.
Yeah,
I would think
for sure.
Yeah.
And 10th place, Tony Winkler with 7.19 pounds.
Yeah, and hey, you know what? Let's give a big shout out to the Bayou Coast officers representing. I think we had 3 of us place in the top 10 this year.
That's right.
Be remiss to miss Aaron LaRose. I think he was in 7th place. Tyler.
Yep, 7th place.
7th place finish. I mean, that's fantastic.
Josh Thompson came in 5th place flounder. So.
Yeah. I mean, usually we have a reputation for not doing so well at the tournaments that we throw. So. Big shout out to that. Real quick, Tyler, why don't we do this? Let's take a quick commercial break for one of our sponsors. We'll get back. We'll announce the other prizes. And coming up here shortly, guys, big announcement, championship tournament, all the details y'all been waiting for.
What's up, guys? It's Brock from the Backpacker again. Another cool product I wanted to show y'all was the marine mat that we put in a lot of our boats. Basically, it's an EVA foam pad. It's got a 3M adhesive on the back, and we can customize it to fit any of the other boats. Makes it really quiet for us guys that likes to sight fish. It dampens the noise of your paddle and your rods hitting the deck. So it's really good for our shallow water fishing. Plus, it's a cool way to customize your boat.
And don't forget, be sure to visit us online at www.backpackeroutdoors.com or in one of our stores in Baton Rouge and Lafayette.
Hey guys, we're back. Tyler, real quick, why don't you walk us through the other winners? I mean, a lot of people put a lot of effort in this, and I really like to announce the names here. We've got leopard red, big trout, big red, and big flounder. You could maybe just run through those lists for us real quick.
Yeah, sure. We'll start with leopard red. First place, Ryan Goday. Forgive me if I butcher any of these names, by the way. He had 11 spots. Second place, Chris Weaver, 9 spots. And then 3rd, 4th, and 5th all tied, 8 spots. That's Mark Laporte, Lee Wolf, and Brendan Bayard.
Wait, go back. Who was 5th place, leopard red?
Yeah, Brendan Bayard, 5th place, leopard red.
Unbelievable. They say he can't catch a redfish. There you go.
On the big flounder, saddle flounder we call it, first place, Brandon Ballard, 1.93 pounds. Second place, Timmy Callier, 1.91 pounds. Third place, Sean Calloway, 1.89 pounds. Fourth place, Tommy Eubanks, 1.87. And fifth place, Josh Thompson, 1.52.
Now we had a bigger flounder caught that day. Lance Burgess didn't make the weigh-in. 8 minutes late.
I got a picture of it up for everybody to see. Do you remember how much it weighs? I think it was over 3 pounds.
It was over 3 pounds.
It was 3.1 or 3.2, something like that.
Yeah, it was a doormat.
Yeah, I thought he said it was like 3.4.
Yeah, it was a big flounder. It
was massive.
Again, he makes it in 8 minutes early. He's probably in the top 5 as well. I mean, that flounder, 3.5 pounds. He only needs is a 5-pound red and a dink trout, and he's in the top 3. Yep. So unfortunately, he couldn't make it. I know he was trying to get the slam. He had his flounder early. He didn't have a trout though, and I know he went to Leeville to try to get a trout. By the time he got it, he came in, and unfortunately, he was 8 minutes late. So that was a tough break for Lance, but really it was a stud flounder. So what else we got left, Tyler, as far as awards there?
Got mule trout. First place, Cody Drago, 3.48 pounds. Second place, sorry, Vlad. I'll probably butcher this too, but Vlad Moldavine.
Just Vlad. Everybody knows.
Everybody knows Vlad. Yeah, 3.18 pounds.
Yeah.
Third place, Squints Vanoy, 2.86 pounds. Fourth place, Thomas Schneider, 2.76. And fifth place, Elizabeth Hart, 2.35. Elizabeth also the one that took the Waterspout video earlier that we played. And then last is the big red, stud red category, we call it. First place was Chris Holmes, 8.34 pounds.
That was a monster. Slob, too. I mean, for this area, that was a slob of a redfish.
Second place, Mike Malone, 7.76. Third place, Kirk Daigle, 7.68. Fourth place, Harry Flanagan III, 7.15 pounds. And fifth place, Toby Armand, 7 pounds.
Tyler, do we have a picture of Harry Flanagan's redfish?
I don't. Oh, we don't have. We have a video though.
Yeah, we have a video. I think. Why don't we show that video real quick of Todd winging Mr. Flanagan's redfish?
So what exactly happened with that?
Tyler, you were right there. Why don't you recount the story for all of us watching?
So Todd was, you know how he massages very gracefully every redfish before he measures it to make sure he can get every little eighth of an inch out of it. He was grabbing the fish. Pretty horrible, and we all laughed, and I know Todd apologized probably 20 times. He felt so bad. He still feels bad about it. But Harry was a good sport, and we asked for his permission to post the video, and he thought it was funny and was all for it. So
absolutely, it was a great video. One thing we're trying to do is videotape a lot more of this stuff, and so we can show it back later on, and just in case we need bloopers like that. So, well, that pretty much wraps up Paddlepalooza. Oh, wait a moment. We had some other winners. We had Trash Bash winner. Tyler, who won Trash Bash this year?
I think we had.
I think it was a girl this year.
I know Hart Foster won a gift card, and Ricky Smith.
That's right. We were going to have Hart on. She was going to tell us about her scouting. She did for Trash Bash. The areas that she noticed, her game plan going in, and where she felt that she could really fill her bag that day to win. But seriously, Hart actually, she was actually had caught some flounder going up to the tournament. The weather didn't cooperate with her that day, and she couldn't catch her flounder on tournament day, but she did catch her redfish and her trout. And I think she finished first overall in the ladies division. Is that right?
She did. Yeah, I think maybe somebody might have had a higher weight than her with one fish, but two fish stringer beats a one fish stringer.
Two fish stringer beats one fish stringer.
She was able to get a first place finish in the ladies division, and then just to finish out these other categories, we had first place for the youth division was Graves Bayard with 4.68 pounds, and then
the old man division, right?
Yep, first place in the old man division is Mr. Mark Eubanks' dad, Tommy Eubanks, at 6.72 pounds. I think he's like a 3 or 4 Pete now on the seniors division.
Tommy, Mark, when does your dad plan on coming back and competing in the regular division? Is he just said, I'm just going to stick to the senior circuit?
He hadn't really said, but I know right now he's relaxing on the beach. So he's sitting back enjoying just watching the video here.
So he's obviously made all the right decisions in life.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can see that. So look, I want to congratulate all the winners, everybody that came out and fished Paddlepalooza. If you were able to finish in the top 10, it's a hell of a showing. If you were able to catch a slam, it's a great job. Anytime you come out there, you're competing against some of the best kayak fishermen, not only in the state but in the world. We've got, I know Mark, your dad is actually fishing the Hobie Worlds. Steve Lassard fishing the Hobie Worlds. And I'm sure we've got some other people I'm probably forgetting right now. But Benton maybe fished in the Hobie Worlds at some point. Brendan's fished in the Hobie Worlds. We have a lot of really quality anglers fishing out there. But to put it all together on tournament day and to catch a flounder, a redfish, and a trout, it baffles even some of the best fishermen to be able to put all three of those together. So congrats to all the winners. Congrats to the winners of the big fish categories. It was a great tournament. I'm already looking forward to next year. Don't know when the date is going to be, but, really looking forward to it. It's always one of my favorite tournaments. So look, let's go back to Brock. Brock, you won something else. You actually finished first this year in the Massey's Fish Pig Tournament. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Tell us about that.
Honestly, I wasn't planning on kind of fishing it throughout the year, but I did a trip with Lance Burgess and ran into a 43.5-inch red on top water and decided that after that I should probably try to put a few more fish up on the board. So after that, I ended up catching a flounder over in Big Lake. It wasn't huge, but it was something to put on the board. And then actually upgraded the red to 44 a couple months later. And then
Were you fishing with Lance when he caught his big trout? Because I know Lance finished.
I wasn't. No. He caught that pretty early. I caught mine.
Did he caught that where? What again? What's he saying?
I can't say. Yeah, he caught his pretty early. I caught my first red on July 4th, actually midday on top water. So kind of a surprise there. But kind of moving forward, I think 2 weeks before the end of the the tournament, I went to a spot to kind of scout for IFA and ended up pulling a 20 3/4 inch trout out of there. So I put that on the board, and it made it kind of interesting. I know.
Remember that you bumped the Ginger Avenger out of second place.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, he wasn't too happy about that. We were talking some smack leading up to it.
Now I remember that. I even heard about the smack.
Yeah, but that left me with a bass to catch, and I mean I've probably fished 4 days a week trying to catch that bass, and then on I think the Sunday before it ended, I ended up pulling up a 16.5 inch bass. And that ended up tying for first, and then I beat I think it was Gavin Billiot in the tie with a 97-inch ag.
Yeah, we're going to have a whole another episode. We're going to talk a little bit more about fish picks. We'll hopefully get Mike G on from Massey's. He's taking over for Dave Woodard. We want to get him on and talk a little bit more about the format. But real quick, Brock, I understand this is a catch photo release tournament. And basically, it's the combined length of your redfish, trout, flounder, and bass. Is that correct?
It's not combined length, like add all your fish together. It's how you place in each category. So first place in redfish gets 100 points, second 99, and it goes down from there. And it's the same in each category. So your combined point values from each category is what goes into your final score.
Okay. Now, you won first place. What did you end up winning in that?
I won a 2019 Hobie Outback.
Wow. I mean, and that was a free tournament.
Yes, it is. Just sign up for the club, have an identifier, and you can put any fish up on the board.
So I caught a 16-inch flounder today down at Lake Hermitage. Was that something I probably should have?
Put it on the board because it's point values. You can place really high and say redfish and trout and have an okay bass and flounder and still come out with something in the end.
Tyler, can you Photoshop my fish picks card into that picture I took today? Is that possible? Can I do that?
No way, not after what we've been through.
No, there's no photoshopping allowed in fish picks.
DQ.
Yeah. So that's fantastic. So Brock, while we got you on, I understand that Hobie just came out with a new kayak.
They did. It's called the Passport. It's a 10.5-foot kayak, a very basic setup. It's actually only $1,300 or $1,299. So really good entry-level kayak. I actually took it down to Eddie and Lisa's down in Point of Shin last Friday and got to run it through its paces on the water. I was pretty impressed by it. Stable enough to stand in, especially for a 10.5-foot kayak. You wouldn't think you'd be able to stand in it, but I was able to easily stand. Speed-wise, pretty good. It kind of surprised me. It tracks like a 10.5-foot boat would. Not the best. You got to adjust the rudder a good bit, but all in all, I'm pretty impressed, especially at that price point for what they came up with.
What's it weigh? Did you say that?
I want to say it's less than 70. It might be right at 70.
So good kayak maybe for girls, for kids.
Yeah, I would say so. And
for Eric Stacy.
Even guys, I was surprised at the stability of it. I posted a video on YouTube. I think I shared it in the group a couple days ago, and I could easily stand up in it without any issues.
Hopefully, you can film us another nice commercial. We could put it in next time. For people that haven't seen it yet, certainly $1,300 for a pedal-driven Hobie. It's a Hobie's got a reputation. They're a great manufacturer of kayaks. $1,300. That basically competes with any other pedal kayak on the market, I would think.
Mm-hmm. And what you get in that package outside of just the boat is Hobie's great warranty. So I know all of us fishing, especially where we fish, we run into a lot of issues of running into oysters and crab traps. And I see it every day, people bringing in broken drives. And it's super easy to deal with Hobie as far as stuff like that and just the warranty in general. So Like if you buy one of the other brands, you go into the store where you bought it and there's no replacement parts on the wall. You come into our store where you buy Hobie and we have 2 whole walls of replacement parts. So just that kind of guarantee that you get with going with Hobie.
Speaking of which, I'm going to be coming to visit you tomorrow because I bent one of the rods on my drive today when I hit something. And then do y'all have those little O-rings over there that you attach for the pin?
We do. Yes, sir.
Yeah. Cause I lost one. So I need that. So, look, I want to give you guys a real big shout out. With my third place finish, I actually won a $1,000 gift card to Backpacker. And I was thinking, I said, man, I don't need another kayak. I've got 2 kayaks. What would I do with this? And we were talking, I'm getting me a great new fish finder. I'm getting me some GoPro accessories. My wife's going to come over there. She's going to do a little shopping. So, that's going to be a great thing. Tyler, you won how much in 6th place this year?
I think it was around $650.
What did you make any plans for your money? Are you buying a new fish finder? You thinking about maybe taking a little vacation? What are you going to do with your winnings?
I'd spend it all on my lovely wife for our 5-year anniversary.
That's probably the best way you could spend that money too. Best way.
I'm trying to keep her happy so I can keep fishing.
Absolutely. Brock, you're not married and you have no children. 5th place paid out what this year?
It's a little over 700.
And you got big plans for that?
Kind of holding on to it. Just kind of seeing what I can do with it, how long I can stretch it.
Yeah, waiting for that new Hobie to come out, maybe. So look, we're running over, but that's okay. Not quite out of wine yet. So until the wine runs out, we get to keep going. I got a couple sips left. Championship announcement. I know this is something everybody's waiting for. Brock's kicking back now. He's qualified. Tyler's qualified. I'm qualified. Of course, I've known where it's going to be for the last couple of months. But we've actually just got all the arrangements worked out. The date is November 16th, 2019. We moved it up about 3 weeks. We are hoping to give us a better chance of some better weather. We've had it in December the last 2 years. And last year would have been great, except for the thunderstorms that came through. The year before would have been nice, except for the snow. So November 16th, 2019. Again, you will be able to pre-fish. We'll probably have a little bit of a dead period again this year. You will be able to pre-fish that Friday. So if you're making arrangements right now, plan on coming up maybe Thursday night. If you have the time, if you can take the vacation, come up Thursday night. Me and Eric Stacy are going to have a gumbo cook-off probably that Thursday night. So it's going to be a good time. We'll probably have some boudin. We have some all kinds of food to eat. And everybody be able to pre-fish that Friday. The format is going to be 2 slot reds and 10 trout. So 2 slot reds and 10 trout. Location. I know this is what everybody's looking forward to. Location this year. And remember, this is going to be a shotgun launch. So everybody will have to launch from the same location. Now, does this mean that you can't have your kayak on wheels and drag it across the street? Absolutely, you can do that. You can pull it down the street if you want. This could be a shotgun launch. And the location this year, Brock's like, just get it out already. Topwater Marina in Leeville. We're returning to the original location of Paddlepalooza. And we are going to have it at Topwater in November. And everybody I talk to, usually in November, I'm fishing down Highway 23. It's right around Fallen Tide. I don't get to fish Leeville a lot in November. But everybody I talked to said it's just plain stupid over there in November with the trout.
What's y'all's initial thoughts, Brock and Mark?
I'm going to have to do some scouting, that's for sure.
See, I fished Leeville since I was probably 6 years old. So if I can qualify at Rumble on the River, I might be in it.
I was hoping for Golden Meadow, but we can make something happen in Leeville.
I too was hoping for Golden Meadow, Brock, but unfortunately we don't always get what we want.
I know. We talked about it.
No, I love Golden Meadow. But Leeville, I'll be honest, the biggest trout I've ever caught's been in Leeville. Actually probably 2 of the biggest trout I've ever caught, 2 out of the 3 have been in Leeville. It's got a reputation of having some really big trout. And, I think we have the possibility of having some really big stringers, especially if the weather cooperates. Trout should be no problem. Redfish, it takes a little scouting. Last couple of years, I think I've been doing a little bit better catching redfish, but we'll see. I mean, you catch 10 nice trout, you can make up for some smaller redfish. You get 2 nice redfish, you can make up for some smaller trout. So it'll be real interesting. I know you got some guys that really know that area well. Devin, and I know Brendan, Steve, and Mark. You said you've been fishing it since you've been 6. So it's going to be a really interesting tournament over there. Every year we try to move it around. Certainly we're not looking to put a location to work for somebody's specific benefit, but really what we're looking for is a place that everybody can gather, a place maybe with covered areas for the weigh-in, and that we can all hang out and do a shotgun launch. So those are a lot of the really areas that we're looking to cover. So, we've had it before at Cocodrie. Last year was at Lake Hermitage, and this year at Leeville. So I'm hoping we squeeze gold and medal in here soon. So look,
I got a question about the shotgun launch.
Yeah.
So you said if we have wheels, we can go across the street.
Yep.
Can we not leave the Topwater Marina until the shotguns launch starts? So
no,
we can't
that's
start
right.
walking until everybody else starts?
That's right. Everybody's got to be the same location when, the whistle blows. Shotgun. So, if you plan on fishing on the east side, then you could be in the water waiting to go. If you plan on fishing the west side, you got to kind of be in the Topwater Marina parking lot. Basically, you can have your kayak on wheels, but you kind of got to wait. And then, and that's just simply because we can't keep an eye on everybody crossing the street. And hell, if you want to pull your kayak down once the whistle blows and pull it down to the public launch, more than welcome to do that. And you know what? You never know.
You got to pull it by human power too. Don't hook it.
Yeah, that's right. You have to pull it by human power.
Walk.
There's no vehicle. And it's a good point, because in November, if you get a strong wind, coming from the north, and you're fishing way south, you may be better off coming at the public launch, putting it on wheels, and dragging it up a mile on the road rather than trying to pedal against that wind. So something to keep in mind. Real quick. We have some shirts still left over from Paddlepalooza. Certainly, we have our short sleeve cotton shirts that came in your captain's bag. We also have a few of the long sleeve performance shirts left. We sold a lot of those. So if you're interested in one, you can get in touch with Eric Stacy or reach out to one of the officers. We can find out if you've got some. Also, we have some shirts for off the water. If you are looking and you want one of our shirts, we've got our little, dancing fish on the back, eating pizza topped with bait. And we have the Bayou Coast logo on the front. We only have a few left. They're $20 a piece, same as the Bayou Coast shirts. So, reach out to me or Tyler. We can certainly see if we have any of those shirts left and get it over to you and make arrangements. Also, real quick, there is a tournament out of Mobile this weekend. The Tyler, why don't you tell us about the MBKFA? I know you fished it before.
The Mobile Bay Kayak Fishing Association. It's their 13th annual Bagwell tournament. If you like Paddlepalooza and Fallen Tide, it's a very similar format. All Alabama waters are open, and I don't have the weigh-in location in front of me or the times or anything, but you can visit. They have a Facebook page, MBKFA Tournaments on Facebook, and those guys they're a great group of guys, and they're always really good about supporting our events and driving over and participating. And we get a few guys that head that way usually. I went a couple years ago. You heard me talking about that earlier, and I had a real good time. Unfortunately, I can't make it this year. I would have loved to have been able to. It's a fun time, and so we'd like to try to support those guys and return the favor from them driving over to our events.
And every year I want to fish this tournament. Every year something pops up on this day, because I know we had plans to fish it last year. My daughter's actually singing in an event this weekend. I can't make it. But if you get a chance, you're looking for a tournament, I hear it's a really nice tournament. Tyler's fished it before. If you're unfamiliar with the areas, reach out. There's some guys that have fished that tournament. They can give you maybe some suggestions as far as where to go, where to launch, and just some general areas. Tyler, you lost your really big flounder through your native drive hole. Was it through your drive hole for your native last year?
No, it wasn't. It was just.
You told me it was through the drive hole.
No, it wasn't. It went out over the side. I remember.
I remember specifically.
I remember it like it was yesterday.
Because I said, that wouldn't happen if you were in a Hobie. Is what I remember about that you losing that flounder.
No, you're making it up now.
No, all right. So look, guys, I'm out of one, and that means we are at the end of our episode. So if you'd like to become a sponsor of Bayou Coast, feel free to reach out to me or Tyler, and we put you in touch with our sponsor coordinator, Aaron LaRose. If you missed part of tonight's episode, you can check it out on YouTube or Facebook. It's also available as a podcast. I want to give big thanks again to Paul Bernard coming on tonight and talking to us a little bit. I also want to give a big shout out and thanks to Mark Eubanks and Brock Miller for coming on tonight. Thanks for taking the time. Sorry we ran over. Sometimes it happens, especially when we got a lot to talk about. Just real quick, 4-minute announcement. Due to the amount of time it takes me and Tyler to get ready for this, the fact that mostly it's because we have wives, we're only going to do this show every other week, but hopefully that'll make for a better show. We'll have some really good guests lined up. And we also want to thank our wives who are probably watching the show for allowing us to do this and waste one of our nights every week talking to you guys out there. We enjoy doing it. We appreciate you watching us. And we will see you back in 2 weeks. I think we plan on having Clayton Schilling on, who's going to talk about his upcoming tournament with the King of the Island. Going to be a $1,000. It's going to be a slam tournament, a big dollar tournament. A couple other things we're going to be talking about next episode. We'll get all the guests lined up and put that out for you guys. So, good night, tight lines, and we will see you guys in 2 weeks. Thank you.